I watched $280,000 evaporate from a campaign account I personally approved. It took 6 seconds, one click, one man I thought I could trust. And I swear to you, I saw the warning signs weeks before he disappeared. I've been a project manager at a mid-sized marketing agency for 7 years. We handle product launches for tech clients, tight timelines, brutal deadlines, and budgets that make or break careers. When our biggest client, a wearable tech startup, wired us the final $280K for ad placement and influencer contracts, I felt relief. That money meant survival, for the company and honestly, for me. Then there was Daniel, my coworker, our numbers guy. The kind of person everyone liked because he never said no. Smooth voice, expensive sneakers, perfect balance of charm and laziness that somehow read as senior expertise. He was finance ops, lead, invoices, vendor approvals, payout scheduling, my polar opposite. I lived in spreadsheets. He lived in Slack emojis and cold brew. We weren't friends, but we worked close. He'd drop lines like, "You stress too much, man. Clients forget faster than you think." Or, "Nobody's checking timestamps if the work gets done." I laughed it off. That was my first mistake. The second was letting him handle vendor validation alone. We were onboarding 8 new ad micro-influencers, and Daniel said he'd take care of their contracts. "All verified," he said, waving his phone. I didn't ask to see. A week later, he stopped showing up to our 8:30 stand-ups. "Client call," he'd text. "Bank issue," another day. Then the Slack messages got shorter. One-word replies, late-night timestamps, unread receipts. On Monday morning, 9 days before launch, the account was empty. It was supposed to hold $280,000, reserved for media buying, agency commissions, and content distribution. When I logged in, the balance read 0.02. No pending transactions, no reversals, just gone. I thought it was a glitch. I called finance. They froze mid-sentence. "All payments cleared Friday," they said. "All approved by Daniel Green." I opened the vendor list. 7 of the 8 influencer agencies were newly registered entities. Same registration date, same postal code. And the 8th closed 6 months ago. I ran to his desk. His laptop was there, screen dark, logged out. His ID badge still clipped to the chair. His car sat in the parking lot, keys in the cup holder. The only thing missing was him. HR called me into the glass conference room. "You were the approving manager on these payouts," they said. My stomach twisted. "I didn't sign anything," I told them. "Daniel, he must have—" But digital signatures don't care about excuses. The CFO's eyes were ice. "You'd better find him, Mark, before the client finds out." I spent the next 12 hours combing through every system we had access to. Vendor databases, shared drives, Slack exports. The invoices were perfect, too perfect. Each had consistent formatting, matching fonts, identical PDF metadata. Whoever forged them knew our internal structure inside out. By midnight, I was still at my desk, lights dim, every tab blurring together. That's when I heard a knock on the glass. It was Ava, the intern. 19, quiet, fresh out of a data analytics boot camp. The kind of person you forget is in the room until she says something that makes everyone stop talking. She held a notebook in one hand, half a sandwich in the other. "I think I know where he went," she said. I blinked. "Ava, it's almost 1 in the morning. You should go home." She shook her head. "He didn't go far. People like Daniel never do." I didn't even know how to respond. She stepped inside, shut the door, and placed her notebook on the table. Handwritten columns, arrows, timestamps. "I've been watching the vendor activity logs for 2 weeks," she said. "There's a pattern. You just didn't notice it." She flipped a page. "See these? These aren't random accounts. The withdrawals went through intermediary wallets tied to a payment processor, registered in Delaware under a shell entity. Neo Promotions, LLC." She glanced up. "Guess who registered it 3 months ago?" I leaned forward. "Who?" She smiled, a quiet, terrifying little smile. "Daniel Green. using his middle name and his mom's maiden last name, Dan Avery. It hit me like a physical blow. She continued, tapping her pencil. The thing is, he didn't erase his digital footprints, just covered them under noise. He reused one billing descriptor from an old Uber Eats transaction. It's the same merchant ID. I stared at her. How do you even... I don't sleep much, she said simply. A chill ran down my spine. Ava closed her notebook, calm, almost bored. I can find him, she said, but you'll need to decide something first. What? If I'm right, she said, you'll have to let me handle it my way. I swallowed. And if you're wrong? She looked me dead in the eye. Then you can fire me. The way she said it, steady, certain, made the air feel heavier. I didn't know it yet, but that was the moment everything shifted. Ava didn't ask for permission again. She slid into my chair, opened a fresh incognito window, and began typing like she was reciting a prayer she knew by heart. First rule, she said, barely above a whisper. Don't chase money, chase habit. Money lies, habit doesn't. She started with the invoices. On paper, they were flawless. Proper vendor names, a neat cascade of line items, PO references that matched my Trello cards, but she ignored the words and looked at the arithmetic. See the trailing cents? She said, pointing at 3 payouts, ending in point 17 on 34 and 68. He's using cents as flags. Split routing. She highlighted the 3 and pulled up timestamps. Each had been processed at a different minute mark, spaced by exactly 11 minutes. 11's his rhythm, she murmured. He thinks it's random enough to blend, not so neat that it looks automated. From there, she pivoted to the Slack export. We'd pulled admin logs with legal's blessing because, frankly, the CFO practically threw the keys at me. Ava searched not messages but presence pings, building a skyline of green dots. When Daniel showed online, when he idled, when he came back. Now watch his calendar, she said, overlaying the exported ICS file. Tiny blocks named ops, never longer than 20 minutes, stacked near midnight. No one schedules an ops block at 12:11 a.m. unless they're hiding in plain sight. She asked for the printer logs next. I didn't even know we had those. Facility sent a CSV, job IDs, users, page counts. 3 nights before the money moved, Daniel printed a 6-page document at 12:22 a.m., then exactly 5 minutes later, reprinted it with 1 extra page. He added a routing memo, she said. Physical comfort. People like to hold the crime for a second. It feels real. Her voice stayed level, but something in my chest was rattling. Outside our glass room, the office was dying and didn't even know it yet. HR was triangulating what to tell the client. The finance team was running hot with accusation and caffeine. My phone buzzed every few minutes, unread emails multiplying like bacteria. The client's COO had left a voicemail with all the softness of a guillotine. If the launch slips, our board reconsiders the relationship. Translation: we walk, and we tell our friends to walk too. Ava kept building. She pulled Wi-Fi Mac histories from IT. He tethered once, she said, zooming into a single Monday night. Hotspot named Cesar, model iPhone 13 mini, someone else's device. She cross-checked the Mac with a list of nearby networks from a coffee spot across the street, the chain store that prints receipts with the last 4 digits of your device's mass if you use their app. Cesar belongs to a junior accountant at a contractor we used last year. Look at LinkedIn. He posted a New Beginnings update 2 months ago. No company listed. She tapped her pencil. Friend or Mark. Either way, Daniel's sloppy. Sloppy? I said, numb. He emptied the account. Sloppy doesn't mean stupid, she said. It means arrogant. Around 10 a.m., the CFO pulled me into the kitchen and shut the door. No preamble. This is your project. You fix it. Today. He wasn't yelling, but it felt worse. I told him we were working angles. He said angles don't fill bank accounts. Back at the glass room, my hands were shaking. Ava didn't look up. They're going to make you the fall guy, she said, as if stating the weather. How do you know? Because you cared about the work and he cared about the exit. Caring is a liability if you don't turn it into leverage. What's leverage? She glanced up, eyes flat and clear. Proof that hurts more than the truth. She laid out the map. 7 shell vendors, all Delaware LLCs with anonymous managers, registered through 2 different formation services, but paid with a single prepaid card badge that had been topped up at a pharmacy 3 blocks from our office. We need eyes, she said, and pulled up the pharmacy's hours on Google. Not to catch him there, he won't come back. To replicate the pattern. She wasn't going to trap Daniel where he had been. She was going to trap him where he thought he was safe. The plan felt like it fell out of a heist movie and landed on my desk. She built a fake vendor portal in an evening skin of Bootstrap. Clean, cheap, plausible. Reconciliation pilot, the header said, with our agency logo muted to grayscale. She scraped the style guide from our public case studies, so the typography was dead on. 2 fields, vendor ID and escrow reference. He'll know neither, she said, but habit will make him try. If he tries, we get IP. If he logs in twice, we get profile. How do we get him there? Ava's smile didn't change. We invite him like we always do. Internal bureaucracy that looks boring. She drafted an email from a no-reply address that spoofed our payment processor's domain with a single swapped character. The message tone was perfect. Mildly annoying, a tiny bit condescending, written by a machine pretending to be a person pretending to be a machine. Subject, final escrow. Recon, cycle 22B. Deadline today, 6 p.m., non-compliance triggers hold. At the bottom, a buried link. Will he click? I asked. He already has, she said, in his head. We seeded the link into the one place he couldn't resist, his inbox filter habits. Ava had found a rule he used to sidestep spam. Anything with the word escrow and cycle got auto-starred and bubbled to the top. He'd said it after a real reconciliation scare in Q2. I hadn't known that. Ava had. Meanwhile, the squeeze tightened. The client's legal team asked for a call to discuss contingency pathways. HR asked for my written timeline from first budget allocation to last approval, with names and attachments. The junior copywriter avoided my eyes, then slipped me a post-it. They're saying you knew. The air tasted metallic. I could feel heat in my face that had nothing to do with the AC. Ava never looked scared. She moved through tasks like a surgeon. She pulled calendar metadata from the shell company's Gmail headers. Time zones buried in the received lines didn't match the mailing addresses on their invoices. She matched the aberrant time zone to a shared office space in Hoboken that rented virtual suites by the quarter hour because it made paperwork look officey. Daniel had used them before for a pop-up event proposal that died in committee. He recycled his own lies. At 3:12 p.m., we pushed the lure. The no-reply message went out to 3 addresses linked to the shells and to Daniel's personal Gmail from an old onboarding form he'd accidentally left in a public drive folder with anyone in org with link can view. Ava throttled the portal to throttle him. First load was fast. Second load delayed by 1.8 seconds. Third was instant. That delay builds trust, she said. Humans think server. We waited. The office noise turned into a low, endless hum. Someone down the hall was crying very quietly. The CFO's door stayed shut. My phone buzzed with the word bored in a preview line and I stopped reading. At 3:19 p.m., Ava's screen blinked. First hit. An IP from a co-working Wi-Fi pool in Jersey City. Vendor ID guessed wrong. Reference wrong. The user backed out. Returned 37 seconds later from a different IP in the same pool. New browser. Private window. He's cautious, Ava said. He's also alone. What now? Now we feed him a reason to believe. She toggled a flag on the portal. A banner appeared. Previous cycle incomplete. Review PDF summary. The button didn't download anything. It triggered a request that forced the browser to leak one more crumb. locale, and a system font fingerprint that her logger matched to the last printer job Daniel had used, a weird, half-broken font we'd installed for a pitch deck and never removed. "Nobody else here has that font," she said. "He does. 3:24 p.m. A third attempt. He entered a vendor ID that didn't exist, but the pattern matched the IDs he'd invented on the forged invoices, down to the two-letter prefix that mirrored his initials in reverse. She let the portal respond with a polite error and an inline support email. He bit. A minute later, an email arrived in the spoofed inbox. "Hi, getting an error on cycle 22B. Need to clear before 6 p.m.? Can you enable manually? Vendor ref NP 1174. Signed with an alias he'd used on an influencer brief 2 quarters ago." Ava typed back a single sentence. "Manual enable requires verification on file via live call. 3 minutes. She pasted a Zoom link and added a fake ticket number in the subject line so his filters would keep it starred. "Live," I said, throat dry. She nodded. "We won't need his face. We need his reflex." We joined the call from a conference room with the blinds drawn. Ava killed our video, left audio on, and loaded a script that looked like every dead-eyed support call I've ever endured. She spoke in a soft, neutral cadence. Never using a proper noun she couldn't defend. "Okay, I see cycle 22B. I'll initiate manual verify. On your end, you'll get a 6-digit code. Read it back fast. Then I'll push you a small test credit. Please confirm the amount." A ding. He'd joined. No camera. A clipped male voice flattened by distance. "Yeah," he said. "Let's make it quick." Ava pressed a key. Our system, her system, sent a code to the email addresses he'd used in his shells. Seconds later, he read it back without hesitation. The 6 digits matched. "Thank you," she said. "Pushing test credit. Check your receiving balance." There was a pause. A chair creaked on his side. "Got it? 31 cents. "That confirms the route," she said. "One more step. I need to reconcile the originating account descriptor. Please confirm the descriptor string that appears next to the credit." He read it out. Hearing our processor's internal tag next to the shell bank's nickname felt like listening to a safe crack. Ava's hands didn't shake. She marked the descriptor green, flipped to a separate window where the fraud hotline for that neobank sat open and primed, and triggered a freeze request on any incoming transfers matching the pattern. The rep on the hotline had our paperwork in advance. CFO had gotten religion an hour ago. "Final check," Ava said into the call, voice light. "Please return the test credit. My system shows you can push back now." Another pause. A soft click. "Returned." "Great," she said. "Manual enable complete. Try the portal again in 2 minutes." We hung up. The room was so quiet I could hear my pulse. On Ava's screen, little green lights began to line up as if someone had taken a straight edge to chaos. The freeze flags propagated. The receiving account shifted from available to review. A red mark appeared on the Shell Umbrella account, activity restricted, followed by a new logline we hadn't seen yet. Attempted outbound, blocked. Reason, suspicious escrow reconciliation loop. Ava exhaled through her nose, the smallest sound. "He clicked," she said, not triumph, not glee, just fact. "And he authenticated. The habit did the rest." The next 48 hours were a blur of silence, caffeine, and fear. HR wanted daily status updates. The CFO wanted proof. The client wanted blood. And I wanted a second chance to not look like the idiot who let a charming sociopath steal nearly 300 grand. But Ava, she didn't want anything. She wanted order. She sat across from me, laptop open, the glow from her screen painting her face like a ghost in a data storm. Every keystroke looked deliberate, calm, surgical. "He'll log back in soon," she said on Wednesday morning, voice flat. "Why?" I asked. "Because guilt isn't what brings people back," she said. "It's curiosity. He'll want to see how much we know." She was right. By noon, the trap started whispering. The fake vendor portal registered another connection. Same device fingerprint. Different IP, this time from a WeWork in Midtown Manhattan. Daniel hadn't run. He was still nearby. Ava tracked the login chain in real time. Bounce from WeWork, VPN tunnel, cloud proxy, shell wallet. And then a second connection, identical in pattern but from a new laptop. He's trying to move it again, she said. He thinks he's cleaning traces. The CFO hovered behind us, white-knuckled on his coffee mug. What happens if he succeeds? He won't, Ava said. And if he does? She finally looked up. Then you'll wish you hadn't asked. The tension in that room could have cracked glass. At 3:07 p.m., she initiated the next phase, a reconciliation call, but not a real one. This one would be theater. She drafted a fake escalation email from our legal team, complete with disclaimers, corporate tone, and that subtle blend of panic and authority no scammer can resist. Mandatory audit call to reconcile payment pathway freeze, the subject line read. Failure to participate may result in asset forfeiture. Daniel responded in 11 minutes. Need time slot. Urgent. Can't have funds locked. 15:30 works? Ava didn't even blink. Perfect, she said. We reserved the large conference room, blinds drawn, speaker centered on the table. All lights dim. She brought her laptop, a burner phone, and a notebook that looked more like a mission log than office notes. I sat next to her because she asked me to. Just don't talk, she whispered. At 3:32 p.m., the Zoom tone chimed. Mr. Green, she said, neutral, professional. He hesitated, breathing sharp through the mic. Yes, speaking. This is Ava from Ledger Compliance, she said. We're reconciling pending assets flagged by escrow crosscheck. I need to confirm the receiving channel ID ending in 41. Silence. Then, yeah, that's me. She continued, calm, rhythmic. Our system shows restricted routing. I can manually release funds if we verify source continuity. For that, I'll need you to read the last descriptor from your dashboard. He read it, the same pattern she'd baited. It was the final confirmation she needed. While she kept him talking, her second screen ran the live trace. Every transaction attempt he made was being cloned in a test sandbox and mirrored to the bank's fraud desk. His fund recovery was now evidence. The account, frozen by federal compliance systems within seconds, showed the entire transaction tree. Shell vendors, crypto bridge, prepaid wallets, the lot. She muted herself, typed one line to me on a sticky note. Got him. I didn't breathe. She unmuted. Sir, you'll receive an authentication email shortly. For compliance, please confirm the reference code aloud. He did. And that code, it wasn't from the bank. It was a trace tag, a marker that tied his device to the transfer record. Ava had built it. By the time the call ended, he was thanking her. Thanking her. He had no idea he'd just confessed on a recorded call, authenticated a trace code, and confirmed his fraud trail directly to the agency he robbed. When she hung up, the silence was almost holy. Funds are locked, she said. Fraud desk is processing reversal. Give it 2 hours. 2 hours later, the account rep called. We've recovered $262,000, he said. Remainder pending freeze. The CFO just stared at her. How? Ava shrugged. He's clever, not careful. People like Daniel think they're hackers. They're just storytellers with Wi-Fi. I wanted to laugh, but something in my chest hurt too much. That night, HR asked me to stay behind for documentation. I thought I was getting fired. Instead, they asked me to recount every detail from memory, from Daniel's first ops calendar block to the last Zoom call. It felt like confession under oath. But halfway through, Ava appeared at the door, holding her notebook. I need Mark, she said to the HR rep. Now. They didn't argue. She led me into the corridor, quiet except for the hum of the vending machine. You didn't ask why he did it, she said. I frowned. Does it matter? It always matters, she said. You trusted him because you thought he wanted what you wanted. Stability, recognition, control. But Daniel only ever wanted to be seen as the smartest person in the room. So I made him prove it. Her tone didn't change, but her eyes did. Colder, older somehow. What happens now? I asked. Now, she said, he gets the bill. The next morning, the board met behind closed doors. By noon, legal had drafted a termination letter and a criminal referral package. IP evidence, bank confirmations, Zoom transcript, trace logs, all airtight. At 2 p.m., Daniel walked into the building like nothing happened. He must have thought he'd patched things up. Or maybe he came to spin a new story. He never got the chance. Security escorted him straight into the conference room. HR was waiting, so was the CFO, and Ava, sitting quietly in the corner, laptop open, expression unreadable. I wasn't in the room, but I saw it through the glass. He gestured wildly, talking fast. Then his face froze. Ava turned her screen toward him. Whatever she showed him. A freeze confirmation, a routing map, maybe that single line. Vendor NP 1174, fraud flagged by account owner. It drained him. He sat down. Shoulders collapsed. When the police arrived, he didn't resist. Just whispered something I'll never forget as they cuffed him. She's not human, he said. She's a machine. Maybe he was right. But when the officers let him out, Ava just closed her laptop, stood up, and said quietly, "Machines make errors. I don't." That night, I walked out into the rain feeling hollow, half relieved, half ashamed. I'd been so focused on survival that I hadn't seen what she'd really done. She'd saved us, yes, but she'd also turned justice into architecture. Cold, perfect architecture. The money was coming back. The launch would happen, and Daniel Green would never work again. Still, as the automatic doors slid shut behind me, I couldn't shake one thought. Ava didn't just catch a thief. She'd built the system that makes thieves obsolete. By Friday, the agency was running on caffeine, gossip, and damage control. Everyone knew what had happened, but no one dared to say Daniel's name out loud. HR called it a serious compliance breach. The CFO called it a near-death experience. The client called it grounds for termination. But by noon, the freeze had cleared, and the funds had landed. 279, but if about 6-2, almost every dollar. The CFO made the official announcement at an all-hands meeting. Funds recovered. Launch on track. We move forward. His voice was flat, rehearsed, pretending it wasn't the closest we'd ever come to collapse. He didn't mention Ava. Not once. She was sitting in the back, hoodie up, typing through the applause like it had nothing to do with her. When the meeting ended, I followed her out into the corridor. "You saved all of us," I said. She shrugged. "I just cleaned up your mess." It wasn't cruel, just factual. "Daniel's facing charges," I said. "The cops said your data trail was airtight." "I didn't build it for them," she said. "I built it for you." I didn't understand until later. 2 days after his arrest, Daniel's name hit the local news. Marketing exec charged in $280,000 embezzlement scheme. The article used his LinkedIn photo, smiling, confident, oblivious to how fast the ground could vanish. But the part that caught my eye wasn't the headline. It was the line that read, "Sources close to the investigation confirmed that an anonymous whistleblower provided decisive digital evidence." Anonymous. Ava hadn't signed her name anywhere. HR wanted to celebrate. "We should give her a bonus," someone said, "or at least a press mention." But Ava refused. "No names," she said. "No cameras. Just fix your systems." The board approved a full-time offer. Title: Data Security Analyst. Salary: triple her internship rate. When I told her, she looked at me with that same unreadable calm. "They're not hiring me," she said. "They're containing me." She wasn't wrong. The day before the product launch, I came in early. The office was still half asleep, lights flickering in the open floor. Ava was already there, sitting in front of her dual screens, headphones around her neck, coffee gone cold. I hesitated at the door. "What are you still doing here?" I asked. She didn't turn around. "Cleaning up," she said. "Everything's over." She finally faced me. That's what everyone says right before it starts again. She showed me her screen, a flowchart of the company's vendor and payment processes. Every line was color-coded. Red meant exploitable. The entire chart looked like a blood map. "You should have been promoted years ago," she said. I frowned. "What are you talking about?" "You do the work of 5 people and take the blame for 6. Daniel didn't fool you because you're stupid. He fooled you because you're decent." She closed the laptop. "That's rarer than people think." There was a long pause. Then she added quietly, "You needed a villain so you could keep being the hero." That one hurt, because it was true. The launch went live at 6 p.m. sharp. The client's CEO called me personally. "Hell of a recovery, Mark. You kept us from walking." We hit our targets. The campaign exploded. Trending hashtags, record CTR, ad placements sold out. Everyone celebrated. Champagne, lights, music, noise. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something much larger had shifted beneath all that noise. When I went back to my desk, Ava's station was empty. Her notebook was gone. Her chair pushed in perfectly. Only one thing was left behind. A small flash drive, labeled in sharp pencil. For when they forget. I plugged it in. One folder, one file. A text document time-stamped at 4:13 a.m. that morning. It read, "Systems fail because people trust convenience more than integrity. You trusted a man who smiled more than he documented. Never confuse charisma with competence. And when someone disappears, don't chase them. Build a system they can't escape." Underneath, one final line. "You don't owe me anything. Just remember who actually watches." 2 weeks later, Daniel's arraignment made headlines. The company didn't attend. The client didn't care. But I watched the stream alone in my apartment. He stood there in a suit that didn't fit anymore, wrists cuffed, eyes hollow. When the judge read the charges, he tried to speak. Said something about pressure, mistakes, a misunderstanding. It didn't matter. The sentence came swift. 18 months. Restitution. Probation. He didn't look at the camera when they let him out. But I swear, just for a second, he looked over his shoulder. Not at me, but at the idea of me. The man who'd signed the wrong approval, who'd been one bad day away from ruin. And behind that stare, I could almost hear Ava's voice again. He'll want to see how much we know. The agency recovered. The client renewed. HR rolled out new compliance systems with multi-factor approval. The CFO started locking meetings behind pins. Everyone pretended it was just policy improvement. Ava never came back to the office. Her email bounced. Her LinkedIn vanished. But every few weeks, I'd see something small. A fix pushed to our internal API, a patch that didn't come from IT, a message in the changelog. Commit by A. No user ID. And I knew she was still out there, watching, fixing, quietly guarding the systems that could fall apart if the wrong hands touch them again. I stopped asking questions. Some people vanish because they're guilty. Others vanish because they've already done their part. It's been 6 months. The campaign is still our most profitable ever. But sometimes when the office gets quiet and the glow of my monitor paints the glass walls blue, I still think about that night, about the calm in her voice when she said, "Machines make errors. I don't." Daniel taught me what greed looks like. Ava taught me what justice costs. And me? I'm just the guy who watched a ghost save a company and learned that karma doesn't always come from heaven. Sometimes it wears a hoodie, drinks cold coffee, and types faster than the truth can hide.